John and Evie Watson take a gamble on romance and win.
There was a lot of love growing up in the house and coming from them and for each other.
She seemed happy.
But when they're dealt a bad hand, their luck changes.
It's always my pocket, it's never your pocket!
He was in charge of the money. She had no access to the money.
Towards the end of my growing up, she didn't care what he wanted to do.
Evie, wait.
The stakes are higher, and the price is death.
You could just smell the rotting blood. There was blowback inside the barrel of the gun.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. It's 1994 when Evie and John Watson ask their two older sons a very important and unusual question.
They disclosed to us that they were considering getting divorced, and they wanted our opinion on it.
Your mom and I need to talk to you guys. We were thinking of taking a break from each other, just separating.
You mean getting a divorce?
Yes, I guess so.
We didn't care to hear the reasons. We just told them we don't want you to split up.
John and Evie take their kids' advice, even though the passion that brought them together decades ago has faded away.
There was a lot of love growing up in the house and coming from them and for each other.
It's 1971, and 32-year-old John Watson is recently divorced. He's floating through Central America for the umpteenth time, trying to find himself.
My father said that he went to Guatemala and was studying under a math professor.
He taught English as a second language there for a while, and he kind of built a life for a little while in that country.
John doesn't find himself, but he does find true love when he meets Everilda Perez, a beautiful 15-year-old girl known as Eevee to friends and loved ones.
They actually met when my mom was just a baby. Fast forward some 17 years, my dad revisits that family and my mom is there. Only now she's, of age and everything.
Is there something you'd like to tell me?
I would like to be able to say in English que estoy muy feliz que nos conocimos.
Before long, they're inseparable.
From there, it just blossomed. So they wound up getting married in Guatemala. The main reason why they got married so quickly is for naturalization paperwork. Just to bring her over, I'm sure they needed to be married.
He flew back to the U.S. and she stayed there for 6 more months, and then she came to the U.S.
¡Qué increíble!
It's a dramatic change for a girl from a modest Guatemalan family. Evie and John buy a home and settle in the town of Ontario in California's Inland Empire. John gets a job as a math teacher and seems to have found his calling.
When I first came to Ontario High School, we shared a classroom together. There were certain types of students that really sort of gravitated towards him, and there were a few that commented that he was a great inspiration and really liked him.
He wasn't, everyone's favorite teacher because let's be honest, it's math. It's not going to be your favorite subject. However, by the time I was growing up, he was already teaching the kids of his original students.
Equals 49 minus x squared. Therefore.
So we would go anywhere and they would just thank him for being their teacher, saying, hey, I remember you did this. Thank you so much. It's really helped me, things like that.
At first, life is not always easy for Evie.
I not mean to interrupt. I study in the living room.
Oh, no. Come in, Evie. You've got to try Mom's pecan pie.
Life for my mom was difficult because she didn't know English very well. And my grandma was at first a bigot against other races besides white. And then she met my mom, and her heart just melted with my mom.
Aló, mami. El Buenos Aires 8. Chao, te amo.
Evee's homesickness is helped by regular visits to see her family in Guatemala.
She went down there every year. She went down there to bring all of them clothes and just take down some money that she could to help the family out.
And gradually, she starts to enjoy the California lifestyle.
She liked to gamble. She liked to party, and she got her driver's license pretty quickly and started driving everywhere.
She seemed happy.
Happy Mother's Day!
Oh, qué lindos.
17 years after Evee's arrival, she and John are leading a comfortable, typical suburban life. 3 sons, a nice house, and a seemingly happy marriage.
My parents, as a couple, seemed to be in a loving relationship. I mean, every Mother's Day we made breakfast in bed. Every Father's Day we went out to lunch. We all ate at the same time and watched movies together. We just did everything together.
Set and go.
John schools them in his passions, especially judo.
See, not so bad. All you have to do is twist out of it.
He was looking for something to have his kids focus on, and and judo gave them something to do as a family and go to the tournament. He had all 3 of his boys in judo. 2 of them are black belts.
With Evie as stay-at-home mom, one high school teacher's salary does not make for a lavish lifestyle. But every year, John and Evie treat themselves to a trip to Las Vegas.
When they get to Vegas, they would just kind of split up. My mom absolutely loved the slot machines.
Buena suerte.
You too.
She would stay there for hours, eat a buffet, get some sleep, and then go back at it. My dad, on the other hand, he's a math guy, so he would always develop new strategies for making money off of the blackjack table.
Okay, boys, time to go to bed. Come on.
Back at home, Evie's a doting mother to their 3 boys and a gregarious presence among friends.
She was very loud and outspoken. If she sees you and you're not talking to anyone, she'll go ahead and I'll go over there and start talking to you, and you become her friend.
She had this brilliant laugh that would just carry for miles.
What's the matter? You getting soft? 20 more, let's go. Come on.
In contrast to Evie's sunny disposition, as John gets older, he's increasingly stern with his students and his children.
Down.
My dad is always very strict, and if you didn't say yes ma'am, yes sir, you would do push-ups. He was early to everything, and if you were late, he would leave.
It was definitely a machismo family with John calling all the shots, and everyone else knew their place. He was the head honcho.
2.
John himself doesn't shy away from physical punishment.
Turn around and get on your knees.
My dad would whip us every once in a while with a belt or with a shoe. I mean, he would whip us for doing something really bad, like breaking stuff or being too rambunctious.
By 2004, 10 years have passed since Evie and John first spoke with their kids about the possibility of divorce. And the couple is even further apart.
Why does he have to come and cut the lawn once a week? It doesn't make sense. Who cares?
No seas tacaño. Por una vez, métete la mano en el bolsillo.
Oh, yeah. My pocket. That's easy. It's always my pocket. It's never your pocket!
My parents did argue around the house, but then they would just go to their separate corners and just cool off. Some of those arguments were about finances. They kind of just seemed to no longer be in a loving marriage. My mom would go with her friends more often. My dad would be by himself on the computer all the time.
I'm going out.
Again?
If you're hungry, there's chicken in the fridge.
If she wanted to go out late that night, he would be against it. And towards the end of my growing up, she didn't care what he wanted to do. She started getting a little bit more ballsy. She got to go out more, to go do her own thing without his permission. He just became complacent and was like, okay, whatever you want.
Evie finds a job, making her even more independent.
She became a cafeteria worker at first and then became the supervisor of the cafeteria for an elementary school.
When she started working is when she had access to her own money. Oh, she loved her job.
Forensic psychologist Dr. Brian Russell and psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser see two people who are drifting further and further apart.
When Evie and John first met, Evie was naive, innocent, and very dependent on him. But after having some time in the States and growing up and coming into her own and raising children, Evie started to change. She became more independent, she developed her own social circle, and I think that put some pressure on the relationship.
John and Evie turn out to have some pretty significant personality differences, and that really isn't surprising given the fact that they got married at a time when she was too young to really even know exactly how her personality was going to develop. On top of that, they didn't really give themselves that much time to get to know what differences might have been visible at that time. It's really not that surprising to find out that two people who started out the way they did are not necessarily that compatible down the road.
It's so common in marriages for people to change, but when you feel like your spouse has changed so much, like what's happened with Evie, it can make someone like John very nervous, and it can make him agitated, and it can make him worry, and that dynamic can hurt the relationship.
At the age of 48, Evie admits to friends that this time she definitely wants out of the marriage.
It would have been a good junction for her to say, okay, I'm done. You know, I helped you raise the kids, now I'm going my own way.
Problem is, John doesn't want to let her go.
No one wants to tell their significant other that they're gonna die.
She took the money, her ATM card, and took off.
John and Evie Watson prolong their unhappy marriage for the sake of the kids. But by 2004, with the boys about to move out, Evie is thinking of calling it quits. She hasn't told her husband yet, but from what John tells his friend Dave Guerrero, he already knows.
What's up? It's Evie. I think she wants to leave me.
That's really too bad. I'm really sorry to hear that. Well, don't do anything rash. You know? It's cheaper to keep her, you know? Believe me.
Dave was trying to say, well, maybe you want to work it out. I think Dave's been through one marriage himself, so he probably was relating it to his own situation and trying to give him some good, friendly advice.
Mi amor. Mi amor. Look.
After 30 years of teaching, John has saved nearly $500,000.
He was the typical math teacher that wore the old button-down shirt that was super thin and old. He didn't buy clothes ever. He just worked all the time and never spent money. He just sort of stockpiled it.
I have this one you're gonna like.
John fears that a divorce would hit him where it hurts the most, in his wallet.
I'll look at them later.
Oh, okay.
He was concerned that if they were divorced, she would obviously take half of his investment money and probably half of his retirement.
Evie is 49, with retirement still a long way off. But John is 67 years old, and he might need every penny he's saved.
I have prostate cancer. I got diagnosed last week.
Are you serious? Like, this is no joke?
I wasn't prepared for him to tell me anything like that. You grow up thinking that your parents will live forever.
I want to tell Evie myself.
When?
I don't know. Just don't say anything, right?
John decides not to tell his wife about the cancer.
No one wants to tell their significant other that they've known for an extended period of time that they're gonna die, or if they're that close to dying.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. Just tired.
There might be another reason to be embarrassed about his diagnosis. John's in the early stages of the disease, but the medication he's been prescribed is already having some adverse side effects.
The prostate cancer had caused impotence, and he doesn't want to tell the problems as it relates to his performance.
John and Evee's marriage is in a fragile place. They've already told their kids that they might split up. He thinks that Eevee doesn't want to be with him anymore. And so this really isn't the prime situation for a person to want to lean on a spouse. And I think that may be what's going on with John, is he's not ready to share this information with her because they're not close anymore, and he doesn't know if he can even trust her.
He may not want her to stay out of pity, or if he's concerned that he might have some sexual side effects from the treatment of the cancer, he might be worried that that would just add to the problems that they're having in the marriage, maybe make it more likely that she would want to leave him.
John's used to being in charge. He's the one who's used to being in control, and she was dependent on him. And this cancer diagnosis really does turn the tables on their whole dynamic. This would be a situation where he would need to lean on her, and I don't think he's ready for that.
Eevee remains in the dark about her husband's medical condition. And when she buys a plane ticket for Guatemala, John suspects the worst, that she's about to leave him.
A number of family members talked about the fact that she was planning on going to Guatemala to visit her family, as she did quite regularly. But there was some discussion about maybe she wasn't coming back, or if she came back, she wasn't coming back to John.
In an attempt to change Eevee's mind, John sets a plan in motion.
My dad planned a surprise birthday party for her. He told my brothers and myself to keep it a surprise.
Come on, Mike, hurry up. Your mom's gonna be home soon.
It was for her 50th birthday. It was surprising for me because he never planned a birthday party for her before.
Surprise!
The party is a great success.
I'm not dressed. Look, my hair.
It was a huge surprise to her that she got this big birthday with all her friends. She was in tears, happy tears. It was just a very wholesome, nice party.
But John wants to do more.
What's this?
Open it.
Wow, it's a flight to Las Vegas.
I thought it might be fun to get away for a couple days.
That's so nice, but I'm leaving Saturday.
She was going to be going to Guatemala after the Vegas trip for her usual month.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Eevee agrees to the impromptu Vegas trip.
John was going to give her a present of some money to gamble with, and then she would return home and fly to Guatemala with her cousin.
She seemed like she was gonna have a good time.
The couple leaves a few days later.
John leaves on Monday and he drives to Las Vegas, and then Eevee flies on Tuesday.
John told me that Eevee did not like the drive to or from Vegas, that it was too long for her, so she preferred to fly.
When Eevee first lands here in Las Vegas, she takes a cab to her hotel and she meets with John. They have dinner, and then they go to a casino across the street, get some players' cards, and begin to play a little bit.
Eevee had been drinking, and she was very intoxicated.
But Eevee quickly sobers up when John's medical condition is unintentionally revealed.
They drive down to the old part of Las Vegas. They park, and she finds something in the car.
John, why do you have this? Is there something you're not telling me?
I have prostate cancer.
What? When exactly were you going to tell me? I'm gonna go for a walk. I need to think.
Evie, wait a minute. Evie, what?
She was upset about being not told he had cancer, and she took some money, her ATM card, and took off.
A quarrel that marks the beginning of a nerve-shredding mystery.
She didn't make her plane on Saturday morning.
John Watson plans a romantic getaway to Las Vegas in an attempt to mend his failing marriage. But when Eevee learns that John has kept his cancer a secret, she feels betrayed and storms off.
Hello?
The next time I heard from my dad, he said, well, Mom's missing.
Look, I have to tell you something.
Dad, what's going on?
I had an argument with your mother, and she took off.
And then she didn't come back. I asked him, what do you mean Mom's missing? And he wouldn't give any further details. He says, I think she's missing. She's not in the hotel room, so I'm gonna go look for her.
He looked in some casinos and couldn't find her.
Mom's missing.
I remember calling her phone a lot. It didn't go straight to voicemail, so we know that it was on somewhere.
But then, John calls a day later with more positive news. He's heard from Eevee.
Juan, that's your father. Yeah, I heard from your mom. She's on her way to the airport.
John believes that she was going to get a ride to LAX airport in Los Angeles and then fly to Guatemala.
She's even left a note, but the message sounds like a final farewell.
She left behind this note written in Spanish to the children. The letter talks about how she's leaving and she's going to Guatemala and that she loves her children and that she'll talk to them later.
As far as I'm concerned, Eevee's reaction is completely justified. To find out that your husband of all of these years has been hiding a cancer diagnosis from you is really bad. And to find out by accident with a pamphlet is even more infuriating.
I have to wonder, how mad was she really? And if she was really mad, was it because she felt it was sort of a betrayal of trust that he had kept that to himself? Or was it more that she had kind of resolved in her mind to leave, and now this kind of threw those plans into chaos because now she's got to weigh, whether she can still do that out of loyalty to him, or will she feel too guilty?
Okay, thanks anyways. Bye.
At first, the boys are relieved to know that Eevee's safe and sound with her family. But after a few calls, they discover that Eevee never made it to Guatemala. In fact, she never made her plane. Eevee's cousin Miriam urges the boys to call the police.
I had a friend who was a homicide police detective. So I called her and she helped me.
That started the ball rolling with getting us involved.
Yes, her name is Everilda, but everybody calls her Evie. Okay, thanks. Please keep us posted.
John returns to California empty-handed.
My dad came back and we all kind of had a family meeting and we let him know what we had done. We filed a missing persons report.
The next day, shortly after Juan Watson makes the missing persons report, Ontario police detectives go over to the Watson home to try and ferret out what's going on.
We found John. He was in a small computer room that they have off of the living room of the house. We brought him out to the living room to sit down with him and try and figure out what had happened. I mean, a lot of what we had was sort of open-ended. We needed to ask him some questions to figure out if she was missing or what he actually knew about her.
So prior to the argument, she was in good spirits?
Yeah, she was fine.
During the course of talking to him, he consents to allow them to sort of look around.
Does she know anyone else in Vegas? Friends, family?
No, nobody.
And as they look through the house, they find nothing that raises suspicion.
We located a .22 caliber handgun in a dresser drawer.
The revolver has been sitting, apparently untouched, for years.
The gun that was located in the bedroom was examined by one of the officers there, and it was a very old gun and had not been fired in a long time.
Since there's no history of violence in this marriage, there's no reason to suspect foul play.
As far as we can tell, there wasn't any reported domestic violence or anything like that. I know from talking to the kids that he probably disciplined them, like physically disciplined them for stuff, but we never heard anything about him striking his wife or anything.
But when police search John's car, they find some things that pique their interest.
They found inside the Jeep a number of cleaning supplies. There was plastic sheeting that was cut. There were trash bags.
As soon as we looked into the back of the SUV, there was blood. There was blood on a piece of cardboard and what appeared to be blood on a piece of carpet.
Look at this.
And there was blood on the seatbelt and blood in various areas of the car.
What happened?
According to John, there's an innocent explanation for the bloodstain.
He had some property in the right front seat of the car, so Evie was riding in the back seat.
And while she was sitting in the back seat, she opened a plastic container with flashlights.
What happened?
No lo puedo abrir. Está
Here, take this.
Gracias.
While Evie was trying to open that she actually cut her finger, and it started to bleed.
¿Qué hago?
There's some Band-Aids in the back.
No veo dónde están.
John's explanation reassures the boys that Evie will soon be found alive and well.
So we just hoped the missing persons report would work. We were very optimistic that we'd find her because she was a strong woman and she could make out wherever she was going.
But hope may not be enough.
The moment they looked at it, they went, hey, there's a guy wearing a bad disguise.
We had a surveillance team on him 24/7.
Detectives pay John Watson a visit after his wife Evie vanishes in Las Vegas. And as their search continues, they find more questions than answers.
During the search of the car, in addition to blood, we start finding personal property. We find some receipts to various places in Las Vegas. We find room keys to the Circus Hotel and to the Tuscany Inn and Suites.
John had told us that he was at the Circus, so we thought it was a bit unusual to have receipts from 2 different hotels.
I like to gamble. I go to a lot of casinos.
So based on that, we didn't feel comfortable letting John go.
On their arrival at the police station, investigators find a reason to keep him in custody.
Take a look at this.
Everyone that comes into the jail is searched and their property is inventoried to make sure they get back what they brought in.
And during the search, they find 2 false identification cards in his wallet.
Look, I can explain that.
And so once they find those, they have probable cause for a forgery charge.
John does not explain the false IDs, and 2 days later, he posts bail.
On a crime that could either be classified as a misdemeanor or a felony, such as possession of counterfeit driver's license, they will release somebody on their own or allow them to bail out.
Meanwhile, the search for Evie is coming up empty. John and Evie's sons are left to fend for themselves.
I left you some money in the cookie jar. You make sure you eat properly, all right?
He said he was going to try to go up to Vegas again to try to look for my mom.
He embarked on this nomadic lifestyle where he was traveling around on public transportation, taking buses, staying in cheap motels.
It was very abrupt for all of us, but just especially for me, it just completely changed my life. He positioned me to be head of the family.
The boys want to believe their father is innocent, but they're starting to have their doubts.
My mother, she did have a temper on her, but she wasn't stupid. She would make a right decision and contact us. She loved us.
It seems to me that if I'm one of Evie's sons, I'm deeply concerned about the fact that we haven't heard from her for a while, because regardless of the status of Evie and John's marriage, she always seemed to have very close ties and connections to the sons.
This has got to be very confusing for the kids and the rest of the family, because Eevee is so family-oriented, it's hard to believe that she would just run off and vanish. John has always been a good guy. He's family-oriented. He just threw her a party. He took her away to Vegas. The last thing that it looks like is that there would be foul play involved with him.
Police scramble to figure out their next move.
They were going in a lot of different directions.
But they've missed one crucial piece of the puzzle.
And it dawned on me that we'd forgot to go to the Tuscany. So I had one of the other detectives contact the Tuscany to find out if anyone by the name of John Watson or his AKAs of Nunez had checked into the hotel.
We learned that a Joseph Nunez had indeed checked into the Tuscany and rented 2 rooms. And he rented a room at the Circus at the same time that he had rented the 2 rooms at the Tuscany.
At this point, we've advised Las Vegas Metro PD of what we're doing, and they helped us obtain subpoenas for the videos in Las Vegas.
The casinos always have at least 7, sometimes as many as 90 days worth of footage. And because they got on this quickly, they were able to pull that footage.
When Vegas police watch the Tuscany Hotel security footage, there's no sign of Eevee or John. But there is a sign of something amiss.
The moment they looked at it, they went, hey, there's a guy wearing a bad disguise.
And what they realized that this person checking in was John Watson wearing a disguise. He was wearing a dark wig and mustache and walking with a cane using the fictitious driver's license and name.
And it's what they find inside room 120 that will cement their suspicions.
While the detectives were at the Tuscany, they examined the 2 rooms, which were right next to each other. The room of interest was room 120. They searched the room and found what appeared to be blood in the bathroom. And then once they pulled the carpet up, they found that the padding was also soaked with blood.
And room 118 has no blood.
That one's clean.
That was the first time that we felt we had the crime scene, and that was a significant part of our investigation to discover that.
John is now the prime suspect in the disappearance of his wife, Eevee, who's been missing for a week.
We began to tap his cell phone. We had a tracker on his vehicle, and we had a surveillance team on him 24/7.
He manages to dodge police for a while.
I think that he became aware that we were surveilling him. He started using what we would call counter-surveillance driving techniques. At one point, he pulled out the freeway on a pretty desolate stretch and watched cars, and he was using a pair of binoculars. So once that happened, the whole rest of our surveillance on him was very difficult because he started driving real crazy, real high speeds, trying to just get away from us or at least burn the surveillance teams.
Thinking he's shaken off his tail, John drives up to Northern California, where police become even more convinced that Eevee is dead and that John is involved.
They followed him to a dump site, I think it's called the Fairview Dump, where people routinely dump concrete and that sort of thing, way up north in Northern California.
They waited for him to leave, and they found some empty dry ice bags. They found a large piece of sheet plastic. The plastic appeared to have tissue inside of it, so that was collected as evidence.
That was significantly covered in blood. You could just smell the rotting blood. They flew it directly to the San Bernardino County Crime Lab, which does all our DNA testing and all that stuff, to have them compare it to the plastic that we pulled out of John Watson's car.
While they wait for the DNA results, police turn their attention to John's recent purchases, which leave little to the imagination.
Through examining his financial records, we had learned that he had made purchases in downtown Las Vegas. One, which was a bandsaw, which was the type of saw a meat cutter might use. He also bought large sheeting of plastic. He bought plastic gloves, bleach, deodorizer spray, trash can bags, and incense.
Even though they haven't found Eevee's body and can't prove she's dead, police have enough evidence to issue a warrant for the arrest of John Watson. Only he slips away again.
They believe that he was in a hotel room in Orange County, and the police assembled around the hotel room, and they were sure that he was up in there in his room, and they all stormed in to get him, and he was gone.
In fact, John's paying a visit to his youngest son, Richard.
He came to see me at my school after I got out of a course, and he took it upon himself to tell me about a little bit of his history.
Look, you're gonna hear some things about me soon. And I'd rather you hear it from me than from anybody else. I want you to know what the truth is, okay?
He talked about his son, the one before all of us kids, and how he made threats to the president and all these crazy stories at the time that turned out to be true.
Police later confirmed John's stories with his first wife, and she reveals some startling details of her own.
During our conversation, she told me that John was arrested by the Secret Service for making threats to then President Nixon. We confirmed that he actually was. She also told me a story that their son, when he was 2 years old, John kidnapped the son and took him to South America. This story was found to be true. She said when he came back to Texas that he actually burned their house down. We confirmed that story was true also. He was arrested for arson.
That's it? That's everything?
No.
This math teacher and family man's criminal past is worse than anyone imagined.
While John was in custody in Texas, he told the authorities of a story that took place in Oklahoma where he kidnapped a girl and murdered her.
He confesses to them, and they take him out to the field, but they're never able to find the body, so he never got charged with that crime.
But John still serves time on the arson charge.
He went to prison for a short period of time, and then after he got out of prison, he became a math teacher for 30 years.
The function f of x is defined as f equals 49 minus...
At the end of his confession to his youngest son, John drops an even bigger bombshell.
He says, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but your mother shot herself."
Police close in on John Watson, the prime suspect in the disappearance of his wife, Evie, while John, in a surprise visit to see his son, Richard, makes an extraordinary claim.
She's dead. I didn't kill her. Richard.
They were at the Tuscany Hotel, and Evie was in the shower. And he went into the room and found her dead.
Oh, Jesus, Evie!
While she was in the shower, he rinsed her off. He panicked, and then he admitted to cutting her up.
And because he thought he was going to get blamed for it, he disposed of her body.
John says Evie killed herself because she couldn't live with what she had done after John had admitted to having cancer.
Because he was impotent, Evie had agreed to try and have a threesome with a hooker, and then afterwards she felt so bad about what happened that she wound up committing suicide.
She shot herself. She's dead.
I was dumbfounded. I had no idea what to make of it. I couldn't really speak. It was very disturbing.
Richard contacts the police, who do not buy John's bizarre account of Evie's death. And with the help of a wiretap, they're closing in on their suspect.
We actually pinged his phone to the city of Claremont, which is a city very close to Ontario. We were listening to a live phone call, and the person who was actually monitoring that call felt that he was in a restaurant based on things he could hear. So we sent a bunch of detectives to the area, located a Denny's restaurant, saw him sitting inside, and when he came out, we placed him under arrest for murder. Located on John when he was arrested was a bus ticket to El Paso, Texas.
He had a fake ID, disguise, and several $1,000s in cash, and it looked like he was trying to flee the country.
El Paso's a major crossing from Texas into Mexico, and he was fleeing the jurisdiction. There was no question about that.
They brought us into the police station, and that's when a detective came into the room and told us that our mother's dead and that my dad's responsible.
Your mother's gone. And your father was the one who murdered her.
The man I grew up with was strict, but he wasn't crazy. It was just mind-blowing. It just seemed like a totally different person.
It's the first time that all three of us brothers kind of cried together and kind of supported each other. And it was the first time that I felt like family again.
If there's any lingering doubt that John killed Eevee, DNA evidence removes it.
The blood in the car that we'd submitted from the swabs of the seats, the blood in the plastic we'd found, the blood in the hotel room was all Evie Watson's.
That tarp ultimately matched up to the unused portion of tarp that was found in the back of John Watson's vehicle. And later on, there was a small piece of tissue, likely a ligament, that was confirmed to be Eevee's ligament by DNA.
Forensic analysis also reveals the murder weapon.
We ended up getting the gun because the kids brought it in and didn't want to have it in the house.
And ultimately, down the barrel of that gun, there was what we call blowback, blood of Evie Watson that was inside the barrel of the gun. By the time we got all of the evidence together, there was no question that Eevee was dead and no question that John Watson committed the crime.
Now, prosecutors need to flesh out their theory of how Eevee died.
N120 is a corner room in one of the back buildings at the hotel. I think he wanted to have free movement inside and out of the room quickly where not a lot of people would see him.
What we are doing here, John? I thought we were going to Circus.
Yeah, we are, but I have one more surprise for you first.
Another one?
Yeah. You're gonna love it.
Okay, let me go to the washroom first.
John somehow convinced her to get into room 120. Once she was inside, John took the .22 and shot her in the head.
Hey!
He likely packed her in dry ice for a period of time. Then he went and he purchased a bandsaw, and then ultimately he dismembers her body. Room 118 was a buffer. He had both rooms so that he could do what he needed to do inside room 120 without being heard. The majority of the blood that's inside that vehicle is due to seepage after he dismembered the body and placed her into the plastic bags.
He had left his phone on in his hotel room and driven southbound on the 15 with her phone, making those calls to his phone to build up a fake trail of her leaving Las Vegas with this supposed friend she had found who was going to take her to Guatemala.
Evidence found at the hotel room suggests an even more disturbing aspect of this killing.
And when police went back to see what was taken out of room 118 and 120 after John left, there was a frying pan and a spatula. And at the dump site, there was a pressure cooker type pot. While he was in jail, he wrote multiple letters, and some of those letters he indicated not only did he cut her up, but that he cooked parts of her.
And John's motive for killing Eevee was simple.
It's Evie. I think she wants to leave me.
He thinks she's going to leave him. He kills her because he does not want to let her have half the money.
Sorry, I'm just saying I hope it works out.
In the state of California, he had to pay alimony and give her half of his assets. That would be a big chunk of change.
After Eevee went missing, John made one crucial mistake, underestimating the speed of the police response.
He didn't think that he was going to get us at his door on Sunday. He had made an appointment to take his Jeep in for service that Monday. After that, which I'm sure he's probably going to have it cleaned out.
Had he had more time, he probably doesn't have the Joseph Nunez false IDs in his pocket, and the police never find the Tuscany Hotel and Casino. And if without finding the Tuscany, he may never get prosecuted for the crime.
It's very shocking to discover that a person like John, who seemed like this mild-mannered math teacher, has a history of being a kidnapper, an arsonist. He's even threatened a president. And so what that tells me is that he has the sociopathy where he is able to fool people, that he can become a chameleon and turn himself into whatever he thinks he needs to. It also tells me that he has gotten away with things in the past, and that's why he really thought that he could get away with this as well.
John seems to be somebody who looks at other people and relates to other human beings as objects. And we can see sort of an arc now from his marriage to Eevee all the way back all those years ago, all the way up to now where we've learned all these other things that he's done in his life. And we can see that this is a guy who treats people like things, does what he feels is necessary to get what he wants from other people.
I do believe that there's narcissism in John, and that part of why he didn't act out and behave in a destructive way is because he was getting his needs met. He chose a very subservient wife. He raised kids who conformed to his type of discipline. And it was only when things started to change and not go his way that he had to act out and do something destructive.
In 2010, at the age of 70, John Watson is found guilty of Eevee's murder.
He got the death penalty for the first-degree murder and kidnapping of his wife.
We were told during the course of the case that John had an aggressive form of prostate cancer and wouldn't survive much longer, and 8 years later, he's still here.
John never discloses the location of Eevee's body, meaning her 3 sons cannot bury her.
We couldn't have a proper funeral for her, so we ended up getting a memorial done by Parents of Murdered Children, and we visit that every Mother's Day if we can.
Even today, if I walk around the area, they still say, "You're Eevee's boy." And she was such a joy. She was such a great person to have around.
I think she was the most wonderful human being. She was a wonderful mom.